On top of this also is the media. What is going on exactly with the media? So we got to look over to our friends over on the CNBC network. Jim Cramer, the mind of business and the voice of Wall Street. What is his reaction to all of these union efforts? Let's take a listen.
Well, we know that the union work rules are what everything is about. It's the same case with Starbucks, too. If you can't tell your employees when they work, then you're really not able to have much of an ability to be able to move product or move coffee. And I think that the unions will be in charge of time that you need to work. And that would be dreadful very dreadful for Andy Jassy.
And that's just a U.S. picture, right?
Yeah.
They got Europe to think about as well.
Look, one of the problems was, Starbucks does indeed have unionized places in the ones that they franchise. But if you can't control the work rules, no one wants to work certain shifts. So you can just say, listen, I'm not going to work that shift. And Amazon would not be able to say, yes, you must work it. So that's what at stake with union is time that you have to work.
Our thanks to Dee. We're going to watch developments in New York
We have more on
and
the
Alabama.
tech check?
I imagine we will.
Because she's doing amazing work. This is a very important story because one of the reasons why Amazon works so well is because people work when Amazon says you must work.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
Giving
amazing.
up the game there, isn't he?
Yeah, of course it is. And look, this is a guy who doesn't, he's accusing people of wanting to have probably exactly what he has. Nobody tells him when to work. He gets to choose his own hours, probably only works a couple of hours a day in terms of whenever he's on the television. And then the rest is like comfy research in an office. I just find this maddening in terms of the way that they're reacting to this. Imagine that your boss does not 100% rule your life. Is that really the objection that we're having here?
Yes,
also, it's not like people. Also, Starbucks can incentivize people wanting to work terrible shifts by paying them more money. You could actually easily could do that.
Yeah.
You can incentivize your workers, and it's also not like these people are demanding not to work. They're demanding to have some say over the conditions of their work. Everybody. These people are such hard workers. I mean, anybody go and watch a video of what it's actually like to work in an Amazon warehouse. Most white-collar folks, you would not last a single day in terms of the amount of weight they have to carry, the steps that they have to take, the health effects that come from lifting and putting things down. I mean, the sciatica and stuff that these people have to work through is unbelievable.
Yes.
And all they're asking for is, hey, maybe I want a 10 to 15, instead of a 10-minute break, I want 15. Because actually it takes me 7 minutes to walk to the break room, which means that after the time I've gone to the bathroom, I have like 2 minutes before I actually have to get up and go back to work. Could I have 10 minutes, maybe? Radical idea, I know. This is the point, which is that they deserve a say within that. And look, the history of unionization does not see us, especially at this nascent level, not in the bloated stuff of the 1970s and the 1980s. I'm talking about in the real history of unionization, whenever there's zero power and then 100% power on half of the bosses. It made it so that capitalism was much more sustainable, and we had an industrial middle class in the 1950s.
I think that's a very good way of framing it, because obviously we know our audience is ideologically diverse.
Yes. Right.
And what unions represent is just a counterweight, right? That doesn't require a bunch of, government bureaucracy. Yes, you need the NLRB to be strong and enforce the rules, but this is a counterweight, a way to sort of make capitalism work for, I'm not a big capitalist, but make it work for the middle class, be able to have people bought in to the prosperity of America. It's no accident that this is happening right now, when you've had workers watch for 2 years as Jeff Bezos had plenty of money to fly into space and
reconstruct a bridge for his yacht.
Right, exactly, and add billions to his net worth, and they're like, really, I can't get a 20-minute break? Are you serious? Why Cramer's comments are so revealing here is because he is telling you that this isn't really about profit margins. It is on the margins. This isn't that they can't afford to pay the workers more or give them better benefits or let them have breaks. It's that they want to have total and complete control. And anything that is going to take away that control even a little bit, they consider to be completely unacceptable. I mean, he says, if you can't control the workforce, then this is basically going to be terrible for Amazon. Look, the reality is what we have seen with the Starbucks that have unionized, at least the ones in the Buffalo, their sales actually went up. People were so excited that you had these workers who were in the news, who were taking power into their own hands, and they'd sort of like ingested the rhetoric about essential workers and wanted to show their support. It was actually good for business. Amazon is facing a problem right now because they had churned through so many workers so quickly. They're having trouble being able to add enough workforce to be able to meet their, burgeoning, wildly large business. So, maybe it wouldn't be a bad thing for their business if their workers were actually bought in and felt like they had some say over their day-to-day lives. Study after study shows that one of the key determinants of happiness is you need enough money to be able to do okay and meet your basic needs. But the big determinant is actually that you feel like you have control over your day to day. And that is exactly the thing that Amazon will fight tooth and nail to make sure that you don't have. We've talked here before many times about the way they track your every movement.
Yes.
Every single thing you do from the time that you enter that facility until the time that you leave, your whole day, your whole life, everything is governed by Amazon. And what these workers are saying, they have some specific demands in terms of wages and benefits they want to see. But what they're really saying here is we deserve to have some democracy within our workplace. We deserve to have a say in what is going on here. And you can't call us essential and then treat us like we're garbage.
Yeah, I mean, look, Amazon just this is March 9th, so less than 1 month ago, announced a 20-to-1 stock split and bought back $10 billion of its own stock just to juice the price and make all of its executives very wealthy along with its shareholders. Yep. Bezos himself could give up all of the wealth that he just earned in the last 2 years. I'm not proposing something radical. He went from 100 billion to like 200 billion. And I'm not saying give up as in the government forced him to. If he just did it voluntarily, does he really need that extra $50 billion? Could have given everybody at the company, including the workforce, a massive raise, healthcare, benefits. And ask yourself this too, in terms of the market cap of Amazon, bad press and all of that, wouldn't that be the immense show of faith that would stop the unionization efforts in its tracks? Yes, but here's the truth. They care so much about that extra $50 billion on top of the $100 billion and the extra billions to the executives or millions to the people in the C-suites that they are willing to fight this tooth and nail just so that they can enrich themselves and the shareholder class. Well, this is the absolute truth. Like, it's right there in terms of buying back their own stock while fighting the union effort hand and foot.
They tried to increase, they upped their wages and they upped some benefits in response to increasing worker dissatisfaction and some of these union drives. It didn't work because ultimately there is no workplace in America where you are more controlled, more surveilled than as an Amazon worker. They are at the bleeding edge of all of this wearable tech so that they know exactly where you are, exactly how many seconds it took for you to pack that box or pick that item. And so even though, yes, they, upped some of their wages, upped some of their benefits, workers, what this is really a fight over ultimately is control. One last note here on the media response. So we highlighted for you the New York Times, I thought had a very good and interesting write-up, of what ultimately went down here. Some of the other sort of mainstream news outlets of that ilk had similar pieces. I went and tried to look through cable news to see what they were doing. And the answer was basically nothing. As far as I could tell, Fox News, the only aspect of this that they covered was me fighting with AOC.
Oh, cool.
Which I'm going to talk about in my monologue too, and sort of a response to them. But they're such disingenuous hacks. They're so anti-union, but they posture like they're pro-worker just because it's a way for them to own AOC. They're stupid in the way that they did it. But anyway, we'll get into that. CNN, I can't find that they said a word about this. They have one little article on their website, and when you go to it, they normally embed a segment, a relevant segment.
Did on that, yes.
There's no relevant segment about this. So I don't think they mentioned it at all. And again, guys, whatever you think about it, this is a historic moment, the biggest win for labor since the 1930s. Amazon is the holy grail of labor organizing. So for you to just be it's not that important is pretty extraordinary. MSNBC, the segment I could find from them, we may show you later in the show, but they actually interview Christian Smalls, and it gets uncomfortable because they ask him like, oh, what about this thing with AOC? And she says she's trying to be helpful, and Christian's like, I have no idea what you're talking about because we certainly didn't see any of that help. So they quickly end the segment after that.
I'm sure they cut real quick.
That'll probably be the last you hear about the
yes, that's the last time you'll ever hear it there.
So cable news, not exactly all over it. And I also, final note on this, you know, the bottom line is the mainstream press is not that good at their job because we've been covering this for years and it's just you and me and the small team.
It's not that hard.
And it's not that hard. And we saw, you know, yeah, it's a long shot, but this is really significant and extraordinary what they're trying to do. The story of Christian himself is extremely compelling and this is, you know, a really dynamic and courageous leader. And so, you know, they just totally missed the boat on something that is extremely impactful and profoundly interesting and really relevant to their audience, and they're just nowhere to be found.
I actually remember how that came about. We did the segment about Christian getting fired. He saw it, he tweeted about it, DM'd him, and booked it for the show. It was literally that simple.
Yes.
So, you know, guys, it's not that hard. Cable news bookers, they have a much, much, much bigger budget. Their budget for booking is bigger than the budget of this entire show.
Oh, yeah.
And yet,
by
they are
orders of magnitude.
Yeah, by literally orders of magnitude. And they are still unable to bring you the most important stories. Look, that's just really the name of the game, and that's why we do what we do here. And we, of course, thank the people who support us to enable that type of journalism.
Absolutely. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.